right. There's people from Wakanda who are putting a hand out. But we got Apocalypse Mode. I got Barbarian
So
Clans,
hold up.
Heroes and
Did you
Legends,
hold up?
Monopolies.
Did you get it? So, Rune, did you somehow get a copy of Wakanda Forever
Yeah.
that fell off the truck? Oh my!
No, I'm just working off of understanding. I'm still watching the fallout as Drinker and Mahler basically make weeks of content shit talking it.
You mean
I
how
find it
they
absolutely funny that a cottage industry has developed.
Well, I mean, Marvel's shooting themselves in the foot, and they're now blaming superhero fatigue versus bad writing fatigue. Because I mean,
No, of
look,
course they were always going to. That's a. Oh, good, we're live. They were always going to blame.
yeah,
superhero
we've been
fatigue.
live.
They were always going to blame something that removes. They were always going to blame something that ability from themselves, right? It's easier to say the bubble has burst than we screwed the pooch.
And don't forget the agency from the people of color creators involved in this particular project. Because agency isn't just your ability to make decisions, it's also your ability to take responsibility and culpability for decisions.
Look, so, some of the well, again, as Drinker pointed out, some I don't get. Not only do I not get a say, but I don't get any respect in this industry I really wanted to work in. What do I do now?
I mean, you kind of roboted there for a bit, my friend.
You know, because people get screwed on both sides.
But Ayrton, did you get a chance to make it to the second half of Wakanda Forever?
You guys get started in botness.
All right.
I mean, Ayrton, did you actually make it to the second half?
Party started.
No. So there was a let's see, my local theater burned down.
I mean, you're in the Detroit metro area. That's not like that's a surprising occurrence.
Yeah, no, I went to and my copy from the
I look
library.
around and I just want to burn. Let's burn this mother down.
Wasn't loading properly, and then I've been working and shit. I said, "Fuck it, I'll finish it later."
I mean, I didn't watch it because people said that Black and Hispanic people needed their space to enjoy the movie. So I'm following up that advice from those people, and I'm letting them watch the movie and me not watch the movie.
But from what I've heard, they defeat the water Mexican who illegally immigrated into their ethnocentric landlocked country through a river by drying his back off. So I really want to finish it now after hearing that, because this sounds like the best movie ever.
It sounds like the best movie ever is Herschel Walker versus werewolves and vampires.
And demon babies.
Well, and demon babies too, obviously. Give me just a second.
Yeah, got me. What's up, Cross?
So here you go. You can get that link ready, Ayrton, because this gave me a great idea for a movie. Herschel Walker veered off campaign speech to rant about werewolves killing vampires.
Oh,
Herschel Walker delved into the ancient mythic debate during a Wednesday stump speech in Georgia. The Senate candidate came off as pro-werewolf and as he described the plot of a vampire movie. And really, if you have to be one or the other, being pro-werewolf is the superior choice. A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that? I never knew that, he told a crowd. U.S. Senate candidate Herschel Walker of Georgia delivered a bizarre diatribe about vampires and werewolves during a stump speech in McDonough, Georgia on Wednesday in a verbose example of the former athlete's ongoing unorthodox candidacy. Walker, a Republican, who's heading to a runoff.
He has CT, right?
Yes. Against Democrat Senator Raphael Warnock regaled the Georgia audience this week about the plot details of a vampire movie he said he recently watched late at night. I didn't know if you knew, but vampires are some cool people. Are they not? The congressional candidate said. Let me tell you something. I found out a werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that? I never knew that. So I don't want to be a vampire anymore. Walker said, I want to be a werewolf. I mean, those are all strong.
The
points.
absolute state of American politics.
Hey, Rune,
ladies
you're
and gentlemen.
roboting. You're roboting pretty bad.
Yeah, you got a bad case of the robotitis. For more than
Novel Bros
2
here.
minutes,
What's up, buddy?
Walker stood at the podium recounting the apparent plot details of the mystery movie, which he identified as Fright Night, Freak Night, or some type of night. Tom Holland's 1985 movie, Fright Night, and its 2011 remake. 2011 remake might be the Tom Holland movie. I'm just going to put that out there. Both center around vampires in the story, though neither include werewolves. It's possible Walker was simply discussing the topic of werewolves ahead of the plot description and describing the plot details of the film in question. Or perhaps it was Underworld, the film series that Walker was referring to, with a mythical war between vampires and werewolves. Or maybe Walker caught a late-night Twilight marathon and decided to engage in the age-old Edward versus Jacob debate. But, like, this gave me, like, an idea for a movie.
Okay, before you get onto that, I'm gonna give a little different perspective to the recent candidates that got elected, right? So we have Mr. Vampire over there. And we have John Fetterman and so on and so forth. I kind of like this. I want an entire Congress and Senate and whatnot full of Fettermans and Herschel Walkers.
I mean,
that's
what
they
would have in Russia.
That would be the greatest thing ever.
I mean, that's what they have in Russia. That's what they're starting to get in Japan. That's what they're starting to get in the Philippines. That's the future of representative government.
No, I love it. We need more of this. I am so pro werewolf now, and I am extremely pro fracking. Because I love fracking.
Well, let me tell you this idea I had in my head. We're gonna
for it.
And I'm gonna paint the picture for you of this movie. So, like, there's a state out west, like rural, not a lot of population, woods, mountains, stuff like that. You know, like Montana or Wyoming, state with not a lot of people in it. And there's a Mitt Romney type Senate candidate, a very professional, very polished Republican. And then there's like a Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of Republican, who talks about Jewish space lasers and shit like that. A shit posting edgelord Republican.
Careful, Novel Bros in the chat. Don't trigger him, all right?
Well, no, like Marjorie Taylor Greene did actually do, a thing about Jewish space lasers.
I'm aware. but don't trigger the
man.
But
right? Like, so the events at the start of this movie are happening like Politico or Washington Post or some like Washington political newsroom. And then there's these guys get 10 to 15% of the vote. It's like some kind of rural sheriff. We're gonna have him played by like a Bruce Campbell kind of actor.
Oh, I was picturing the guy who played the sheriff in Smoking the Bandit.
You mean Burt Reynolds?
No, the guy who played the sheriff.
Yeah.
What was his name? Fuck.
But no, it needs to be somebody who could pull off an action movie. So that's what I'm going with Bruce Campbell.
Oh, okay. All right.
And like this one guy says, well, why are you paying attention to this race, this primary? Because trust me, bro, we're going out to Wyoming to see this. And like they go to a stump speech, and this guy's like kind of boring, kind of had a little trouble in the stump giving the speeches. But then he talks about the werewolf and vampire problem in this state and how he's going to go to Washington to get the federal resources for that. People start losing their shit. They're applauding like, this is the best thing they've ever heard. And like these reporters go to interview people and they talk about how, the media doesn't want to talk about the vampire problem people out here are experiencing, or worse, the werewolf problem. And like they both like look at themselves like said, all these people slipped a gasket? Are they like on some really bad meth or something? and then they go to like a town hall meeting, right? Like in a church.
Not. It's really good meth.
And then they like go to a town hall meeting in the church, and then all of a sudden the werewolves attack. And then like this candidate for Senate pulls out a shotgun and starts shooting werewolves. And this is my idea for a movie.
All right.
And like, you know, this guy wins and he becomes like a national political figure. And like these two guys then like go back and they're like, well, like, are there really werewolves and vampires everywhere? And like, no one's talking about this? Why is no one talking about this?
So instead of like the New World Order or the Illuminati controlling the world, it's really a war between vampires and werewolves in the background.
Well, no. Like, so you see, like the vampires, right? They're like, you know, the fentanyl, the illegal aliens coming to the southern border, and the werewolves, like all, you know, the rise in street crime and, you know, civil disobedience and stuff like that. It's like an allegory and some shit, right?
Okay. All right. I can dig it. Now,
This is the best suggestion. Anytime you say it's like an allegory and shit.
I mean, I was kind of like, you know, just in a proper bullshitting frame of mind.
no, I love this. I want to make it like in like a B horror movie style, though.
Oh yeah, totally. You got to make it in B horror movie style, 100%.
Now,
Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Now, how do we get this made? Because I need, I need this movie to exist.
We see.
If he was, I believe he's passed, but if he was still alive, I want Roddy Piper in it.
I mean, this would have been a good Roddy Piper movie, but yeah, he did pass away. Well, like,
you know, a business colleague or acquaintance, maybe, I don't know. Before he got into the same industry as me, he used to make B movies up here in Michigan.
mm-hmm. And like, you know, maybe if we get this script right, we can get Nicolas Cage to play the sheriff.
Oh, I would love that. Let's see. Novel Bro says there's a secret war, one where I summon demons to roast them to their face. They hate the cuckoldry slurs.
But you know, it is kind of funny how Herschel Walker was apparently channeling the movie Underworld, because Marvel did that too with the new Blade movie, and that's why the whole Blade movie got flushed down the toilet. According to a new rumor, development of Disney's upcoming introduction of Blade to the MCU is going far worse than previously reported. I mean, it's gotten delayed for like 6 months. That's pretty bad already.
Hold on. My computer moves at half the speed of smell, so give me a sec to get this pulled up. Okay.
This, of course, comes from a rumor that got leaked to Doomcock, which means that somebody at Disney probably gave this rumor to Doomcock, because for those of you out there who are watching this video, I strongly suspect that Bob Chapek is giving information to Doomcock. Some of it being good, some of it being bad, some of it being middling. In the video uploaded to his YouTube channel, Overlord DVD,
you don't
also known as Doomcock.
You don't think that he's...
I don't think what?
Wait, you don't think Doomcock just works for Disney?
No,
you don't think Doomcock just works for Disney, like higher up?
No, I don't think he works for Disney in that sense of the word. Like back in the old days, the studios had pet gossip columnists that they would drop shit to, and I think Doomcock is like that guy for Disney right now. In a video upload to his YouTube channel, Overlord DVD, on November 4th, following his standard disclaimer that he was presenting this information solely as unverified rumor, and asked you to please take it with a grain of salt, Doomcock claimed to have learned that the real reason former director Bassam Tariq quit the production, relaying the information, source of knowledge of Blade production, blah, 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 was quit frustration of how bad the Blade script was. Not only was it a ripoff of a previous movie from another studio, aka Underworld, but it was laughably woke in a particularly disastrous way. The script was really bad. To make it worse, they stole the main plot of Underworld. In the script, Blade had a daughter, but for whatever reason, she was not a vampire, said the source. They're going to explain that using the mother in the way she was born. She worked with her father, Blade, mostly as intelligence. They continued. Eventually, Blade's daughter got bitten, then wakes up her vampire powers. By the end, she's forced to fight Blade, which makes her basically a god with unlimited power. Says the source, briefly summarizing the film's climax, she wins and takes Blade's place. So, yeah. So that's about the future of Blade in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how these things are going to be playing out. Because we have untalented hacks writing these movies.
So I figured out what was wrong with my roboting. Just real quick, for people that are interested, Chrome makes extra copies of itself in the background, and I had 61 instances of Chrome running.
Well, that's a problem.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know why it does this. I have not yet found a solution to make it not do it. And the problem is that Chrome is a really good, internet access frame. It's certainly better than Edge, since
It integrates itself well.
Yeah.
I mean, I still use Firefox.
Firefox is okay, but because Firefox is open source, so it has its other problems. Anyway, yeah, no, you can't overstate Big Vampire. I'm absolutely in favor of a B movie about supernatural politics as a stand-in for the sheer stupidity of American politics today. No, man, no. I'm glad that Butterknife got sent back to formula because someone had the moment of clarity to go, "Oh shit, what are we doing?"
I mean, to me, it's kind of like Lost Boys, right? You need the vampire politics movie I pitched. You need to have that sort of tone.
Well, no, see, that's the problem though. We're gonna get another Lost Boys. They're doing the remake.
Lost Boys.
Oh God, yes.
Lost Boys.
I mean, part of it is you can't get Kiefer Sutherland back. Kiefer Sutherland is dead, not the actor, the character.
Mm.
If you could bring back Kiefer Sutherland's vampire as an old vampire, that'd be fucking great.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what if we brought back one of the Coreys to be the lead vampire?
Yeah, I believe they've done that before. I believe because there are Lost Boys sequels, and Corey Feldman has showed up for I want to say all of them, because Corey Feldman likes to make money.
I mean, yeah. So Transformers are going into new places, and they're redefining robots in disguise. I couldn't really segue from vampires and werewolves into that, but this is something that I think is important.
Look,
by important being absolutely not important.
A friend of mine who's really into Transformers brought me this, and I promptly, immediately lost my shit.
Okay. You're making me open a Kotaku article. How dare you?
Yes. And the reason that I lost my shit isn't because the notion's wrong. I don't give a shit. And I don't give a shit about a robot's pronouns. My problem is they're fucking robots. They don't procreate sexually. Hang on this
image.
New Transformers series introduced its first non-binary robot.
It's
so first things first.
CGI. What the fuck?
I hate this particular version of CGI animation.
They are trans.
I mean, it's in the name.
Here's the thing. Okay, if you're a Transformers junkie, if you grew up with it and you know shit about the setting, then you know that before a Transformer adopts its new form, the form it shapeshifts into, right? It's basically a gelatinous ball of goo and an energy core in a stasis crypt. Okay? They don't have sexual identity. The sexual characteristics are entirely optional. I've never liked the idea that there were girl Transformers, but I at least understood it because they want to sell girl toys. Right? They are fundamentally sexless to begin with. This isn't a goddamn win.
Oh, by the way, they've redefined it that RC is actually a trans robot.
Bullshit!
So Optimus Prime's girlfriend is now trans.
I'm having a...
So that
Doesn't
makes
that mean that Optimus Prime is into traps?
He is. He's a tranny chaser. The Transformers franchise, which has always been more than meets the eye, just introduced its first official non-binary character, Nightshade. They made their debut towards the end of the first season of the franchise's latest TV series, Transformers Earthspark, which premiered on Paramount Plus that nobody's watching, streaming service on Friday. According to the screen grab shared on Twitter and YouTube, Nightshade is a non-binary Transformer who uses the they/them pronouns. Nightshade isn't the first Transformer who's a member of the Alphabet Army. It's been previously established that Anode and Lug...
I want to point out, Transformers don't identify themselves by their sexual context either. They call each other by their first fucking names. That's how Transformers address each other. You don't need fucking pronouns when you're a robot. It's a fucking robot. They're Cog Americans.
Now, folks, this is Church's fault for not being here to help boost our ratings. We have to have Rune yell like this to attract viewers.
No, the only reason this takes me to 0 to 60 is the sheer fucking retardation of it. It's so stupid. It's so beyond the pale of retarded.
But you need representation in everything, Rune, including robots.
No. See, that's the thing, Cross. See, Cross Comics is like trying to do the lore thing, and he's right. They sort of introduced the idea that Transformers might have sex insofar as they introduced Black Arachnia and Silver Bolt, and there are implications that bots are like into girl bots, except there's a problem. Their actual procreation process has nothing to do with that. Transformers basically clang for no reason because it feel good. Their actual sexual recreation is with a device. It's a machine. They don't even make the sparks. The sparks randomly happen. They're just generated from the planet. Which means it's masturbation. It's not even sex.
I mean, masturbation is sex, Rune. I mean, come on.
There's a trans masturbation porn joke somewhere in there. I just can't quite find the wording.
Look, the president told us that getting a BJ is not sexual contact. So I can only assume that a hand job is also not sex.
Well, no. What he actually said was it depends on what the definition of is.
Okay, so wait a minute. Does that mean that whether or not a transformer can be trans depends on the definition of it or the definition of trans?
Yes.
I still maintain Clinton was the blackest president we've ever had.
I mean, he lives in Harlem now.
I mean, that actually is that was part of the marketing for Bill Clinton.
Yeah, that's why he played saxophone on Arsenio Hall.
Yeah.
Cross, I'm not making fun of you. I know. Many a Transformer fan like yourself and I and my friend Ty, we're gonna be digging into this for weeks, trying to find some kind of lore reason to make this not sound stupid. But we have to also be true to ourselves. It's just fucking stupid.
Hey,
even if it works out in lore, even if we can find a reason, that's not why they did it. They did it for the virtue signal. They did it for the political points.
Hey, you know what? Let's continue with the quest to give her an aneurysm for the show. Let's pull up the next link.
Oh, wait a minute. You're telling me that butter knife and Transformers was not enough to make me lose my shit?
No. No, this next one's pretty good.
Nice.
All right.
This next one's pretty good.
This is going to be good. Oh. All right. Hold on. Let me. Let me get this set up just right. Hold
Okay,
on.
because I already
Rune,
responded
do
to
not
that
look
dumb
at the
shit.
private chat.
Yeah,
I've looked at it.
but we want to share our reactions with
And
the
go.
people.
Oh, this. No, this doesn't actually send me into screaming bitch fits. It's just stupid.
Yes,
it's
it
just
is.
obnoxious. Well, because as you recall in the chat, I commented on the one way that this actually works.
Well,
It actually
okay. So the viewers aren't in our chat. So why don't you
Right.
read the panel and explain what's
All
going
right.
on, and then tell them why it works.
I mean, I wish I had a sound board because then I'd just make myself sound like Mr. Freeze to really sell this. We don't fight anymore. She's not out spending my money, and I don't sit alone in an empty house wondering who she's out with or when she'll be home all the time. And the intimation is
Now,
that Mr. Freeze
Before
is
you go
happy.
on, can you
Okay.
read that again, but as Arnold?
Arnold who? Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Because
trying.
this
I'm
is
trying my best.
somehow
This is
this
gonna
is
be bad.
somehow worse than Arnold's Mr. Freeze.
So I'm just gonna think about Arnold and his ex, and I'm gonna try and channel it. But this is gonna be bad. We don't fight anymore. She's not out spending my money, and I don't sit alone in an empty house wondering who she's gonna be with, or when she'll be home all the time.
I said Arnold Schwarzenegger, not the Slumdog Billionaire. Jesus Christ!
But anyway, seriously, here's the thing: the intimation we're supposed to take is that Mr. Freeze is a misogynistic fuck because he believes that he owns his wife, and he's actually happy with her being in the cryotube because he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants, and she doesn't argue or complain or do anything stupid because he's a cuck. But the thing is that almost works. Like if you step way back, like if I walk to the other end of my house and look at this screen from far enough away, you know, I could almost make it not stupid, right? If you assume he's actually lying to himself, that this is a rationalization to deal with the crippling sorrow that he will never save his fucking wife, right? Right? Because that's the thing, is villains can lie to themselves. It's called nuance, people. Maybe we forgot it fucking exists. At the same time, though, I do want to point out, for anyone who's into character design, the best advice I ever got from a role-playing game book was you describe a villain with 3 traits. 2 primary traits that are negative, and 1 contradictory trait. Right? And the best example is like Blofeld from 007, right? He's an evil mastermind. He's absolutely ruthless, but he really is gentle to that cat. Right? You know,
it's a nice fluffy cat.
Yeah.
Right. He's like a soft-spoken, non-combative sort. You kind of want to listen to him, and you kind of want to believe what he believes, but what he believes is fucking awful and wrong. Right? Well, in that same sense, Mr. Freeze is ruthless. He's relentless. He will do whatever he has to achieve his goals, no matter who suffers. And he's doing it to nurse his own pain, right? But we all understand that pain. The man has love in his heart, and he's fundamentally cut off, not just from humanity in a general sense, but from the one person that he believes could forgive him, who could understand him, the person that he has made a connection with after a lifetime of loneliness and isolation, doubling his isolation. Okay, he is the loneliest man on earth, and the only person who gets it is Batman, because Batman's parents are dead. Because Batman feels fundamentally cut off from humanity. Even with a surrogate family, he's never found like the thing that will make Batman whole, that didn't involve beating the shit out of the Joker to feel good. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of characterization, because you can't empathize with a Freeze who's a misogynist dick.
Speaking of characterization, that there's a segue.
Oh yeah, no.
There is a segue.
this was shown to me earlier. I did respond to it. I mean, I will say that using my mom being passed is shitty of me. But at the same time, no. Let's really dig into this for a minute. A character should not die until their player is ready for them to die. Right.
Yeah, Rune.
So
how dare
no
you, you dick? You blew up my character.
Well, no,
Hey.
in fairness, your character didn't necessarily die from that.
No, he
Your
died
character-
from the werewolves tearing him apart and being on fire.
I thought my character got blown up into like tiny pieces. I thought that's what you said happened.
No, the whole process. So first you got blown up, then the people who survived got killed, and then they went around doing the medieval double tap to make sure everyone was dead. Your ass got fucking wrecked.
I mean,
But here's
for all
the
we
thing.
know, his character.
What if I
could be a
wasn't
raid.
ready? What if I wasn't ready to get blown up and then devoured by werewolves?
Too fucking bad.
Well, let's start with a basic premise, because inherent in this one is Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Right.
Oh.
So
Not
So
me.
there are-
quick save. There you go now, bro. Oh, quick save coming. But no,
So
here's
what-
here's the thing. Here's the thing. I wanna nip this in the bud by addressing the other end real quick. You, Larry, have been in a game with me recently. At
I
some
have.
length. You have seen
Yes.
multiple people's characters die and come back in some form so they can keep playing.
yes,
Right? The thing is, it's not that their characters didn't die. It's not
They
that their
died.
characters didn't get the big oops. Right?
they got the big oops.
It's either a status quo thing because the game is vaguely like comics and generally people come back, right? Or, no, you fucking died and now you get to deal with the ramifications of having died, right?
Hmm.
So the story continued with the notion that these people actually died and were fundamentally changed and were cut off from everything they knew and everyone they were attached to. In a
And
meaningful
I
way.
as the player, and I as the character, when one of those characters died, just assumed the character was dead. Bro was going to roll up a new character.
Right.
And I was acting appropriately. And then in an adjacent scene, I'm like going, "What the hell is that? What the hell is that?
But
Wait,
with that-
what?"
But with that in mind, I want to bring up my philosophy, my motto when it comes to character death in RPGs. Okay, if I kill you,
should we listen to this?
Yes.
well, let me.
No,
let me
we should
finish-
listen to
let me-
Rune.
Let me finish rambling this out. If I kill you, the torture ends. Now there are people that say that that's really toxic, right? But the fact of the matter is it's like, no, my job as your GM, ST, DM, what have you, is to create challenges. And the biggest challenges, the most meaningful challenges, are the ones that kind of hurt, right? So my job is literally to torture you. And, if I kill you, you either you leave the game or, you got to make a new character, we begin over again, you got to learn a whole new personality, right? It is way better to wound you and make you live with the wound. You carry the scars of your experiences. That's why we do it this way. When it comes to things like D&D in its purest form, ye old dungeon crawl, where there's no narrative, then I'm sorry, you just die. The dice have proclaimed you got fucking hit in the face with an axe, you ate axe to the skull, your head is in two halves, you're fucking dead. We'll try and resurrect you, but that's a different kind of game and a different kind of focus. This idea that we're going to take the dungeon crawl and make it a skiffy story where nobody dies can fuck right the hell off.
Now,
But
can we take that premise, but do like a D&D type game based on an IRA group in the 60s?
I mean,
yeah.
there's a game called Richploitation from the Red Room, and they'd love to have you. 1970s exploitation film as a role-playing game in a D&D alike. I can totally see we're going to play the IRA in North Ireland.
There's also
and be the squad who can't shoot straight.
There's also a game that's made by Powered by the Apocalypse, I believe, using Powered by the
fuck the
Apocalypse thing,
Apocalypse.
Well, hold up. Where
All right.
basically you're all playing tropes from 70s movies and the 70s events. Where a friend of mine played Bruce Lee, but as a stoner blaxploitation character.
Bitch, are you for real?
Well, I was gonna say, if we're gonna do an IRA game, I'm gonna be Johnny No Thumbs, the bomb specialist.
But the thing is, there are different role-playing game systems, and
Yes.
in certain role-playing game systems, death that's non-negotiated between you and the GM narratively isn't on the table. Now that's not good for your character. You've taken horrific damage. You're now a mangled mess, which means that you need to figure out how your character's going to be able to be functional for the next part of the game. Which normally means, hey, I'm going to make a deal with the devil, figuratively or literally.
Here's the thing. Back in 2000 odd, it's about 20 years ago for us old men who remember old man time. I would run into third ed players who had been playing third ed for a while, right? And or I'd meet them, and then a couple of years later, I'd be still playing with them, doing other things, and they'd be like, "Oh man, I need a new experience. I need something different," because they were getting tired of the same style of power fantasy where they always win, because they had broken the math to the extent that they could never die, because they didn't have the quote lethal DM who was willing to straight up kill people, right? So,
But I mean, that's also on the other end of the spectrum. That's also kind of lame.
right. But the thing is that what they do is they come to me and they'd be like, "Hey Joe, I hear you're a really hardcore DM." And it's like, "Well, yes, I know a thing or two." And they're like, "Can you run a game?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I would run either a D&D or a D&D alike. I was getting into the Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40k RPGs at that time, which have phenomenal critical hit charts, let me tell you. And everyone always loved it. And not because I'm any kind of hot shit, right? But because I never pull back on challenge. I never, ever pretend that it's like, no, man, this is lethal. You are in the 41st millennium, and everybody has guns. And if those people shoot you in open cover with no cover with those guns, you're gonna get full of holes. Get behind something sturdy.
Also, you're being shot by big green guys who believe that their guns have bullets in them because they believe their guns have bullets in them, and thus they have bullets in them. And they also believe if they paint their ship red, it's going to go fast.
On the other hand, I have to give this example. This is true. This is real. If anyone ever needs a reason why you should not get involved in the Mind's Eye Society, now called the Modern Enigma Society, or Canada at Midnight, the local LARP institutions, this is a reason. Serious reason. Hi, Dillard.
That's
Dillard,
because the two of you live in communist hellscapes.
This is true. But serious to the thing, they put damage caps on the game system for the World of Darkness. When you're playing World of Darkness straight, there is no limit to the amount of damage you can do. Which means you can get one shot. You can get fucking wrecked.
I mean, that's not 100% true, Rune. There is a cap on how much high explosives I can get for my vampire to blow somebody up with.
I mean, that's based on your ability to get it, not the ability of the explosive to do damage.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out real quick. So Novel Bro is looking into fashioning his own longbow, while I'm in the middle of building a AR-15 from scratch, from the ground up. I just want to point out how America's better.
I mean, I've got a 3D printer. Presumably, I can make all the very small parts for a gun. So
you
can make the main part for the gun, actually.
Well, hold up. Let me tell you something.
I have a very small 3D printer.
There's a very interesting thing that sometimes happens when they have gun buyback programs. They make the gun buybacks contingent on parts you can print for your gun.
No,
that are.
Let me rephrase this. So, according to the ATF, what is legally a gun is either a receiver or a frame for a handgun. So if you print a lower receiver for an AR, or even a receiver for an AK, that will not work because 3D printed AKs don't work.
And you put it on a piece of wood.
No, you don't even have to do that. Or if you print a Glock frame, that is legally, according to the ATF, that is legally a firearm. So you
And
can
there's a guy.
put that in at a buyback.
Okay.
And there's
Okay.
a guy in New York
Okay,
State.
wait a
who got
minute,
who's got
Wait a minute, guys, you gotta-
$80,000 doing that.
Guys, I think you're missing something here. So I'm gonna read this following exchange. Hey, John. Hello, Rick. What's the plan, Rick? What are we doing? I don't know what we're doing. I'm listening to these people. You morons. And losing IQ doing so.
Correct.
Well, look, if you guys want on, I'm sure Ayrton can get you on, and then you can raise the overall intelligence of this commentary.
that won't work.
But no. But seriously, there was a guy who made 87 grand in New York State doing this.
Yeah. Because technically an AR lower receiver with nothing else in it, just the receiver, is legally a firearm. So they had to give him money for it.
And he was able to 3D print that for like $50 in materials.
In any event, the reason I mentioned this thing about the MES is they put in caps to limit the amount of damage that could be dealt in a combat action, right? And in so doing, fucking broke the game. They utterly broke it, because now you couldn't kill people who were significantly stronger than you, and you couldn't harm them in a meaningful fashion unless you made what we used to call a kill box, which means that people had to plan unescapable murder rooms where you had one-turn kills and nobody had defense. And it was never fun, because the people who would do this were the people that already were unkillable. They used it to kill people who couldn't hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So creating an environment where, well, you can't kill me if I don't want to die, doesn't make better game. It actually makes worse game, because people behave shittier when there's no threat of repercussion on the line.
And I am very sad. Another one of the links I had, the person deleted her post. The one who said that.
So Dillard, if you're looking to get off, go ahead and check your Twitter DMs.
Don't you mean get on?
No.
He says Ayrton can get him on, but only I can get him off. So apparently Dillard and I have a very personal relationship that I didn't know about. I feel very special, John.
And now
I hope your wife doesn't mind.
I'm going to send you what I just got from my PPK recently. I'm going to put it over in the Discord. I think you're going to like this. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so I didn't screen cap the image of the lady saying that fictional people shouldn't use madness anymore. I was able to capture part of her stupid exchange. That it's definitely not a trope I'm interested in continuing to explore. It's been done a million times and often very badly. And I'd rather stories focus on new and interesting ways of grappling with the unknown rather than falling into broken mind cliches, in my opinion. So, Rune, what's your philosophy on what?
Argument.
Right, but I mean, it's also not a good argument.
It's like the only meaningful issue here about madness, because I'm front row center. If somebody asks me, Joe, what about Malkavians? I'm like, fuck crazy fish mouse. Because people who think that being a crazy toon character annoy me. Okay?
Oh, Rune, I think you're roboting again.
Every time somebody is like, I'm going to be the... So that person's half right. But then the rest of it is just so stupid.
Well, I mean, they didn't want madness to be used at all. But the problem is, madness is a fundamental
Yeah, that's
aspect
why
of
they're
the human
wrong.
mind.
The idea that
sometimes
the idea that they're absolutely wrong.
I mean, we don't want to be problematic. And and make people feel uncomfortable about being different from other people.
Problematic to whom?
Speak for yourself.
Well,
Problematic to whom?
Problematic is
I
defined
always
by large
want to know
corporations.
who.
It's what the corporations define as problematic. They just want people to consume product and then get excited for next product. And you can't get excited for next product, and next product makes people feel bad because they have a mental illness. You can only be excited for the next product if everyone has an equal chance to feel unoffended by it.
You know, I love every time Rune just sighs like that. It's more satisfying when I cause it, but you know, it still works.
Yeah. So what do you think about madness? Because I mean, you live in Detroit. You live in a city that's baked with cosmic horror.
I don't know if we really want to get into this, because I think for the most part modern day psychology is actually a scam built on a bunch of lies and a bunch of guesswork and plagiarism by Sigmund Freud, and nobody actually knows what they're doing in the entire mental health industry. I think it's entirely a scam, and it's a bunch of bullshit. So do we want to get into that?
So what you're saying is it's gay and you should.
Yeah, faking gay is normally what I say to be flippant about it, but
So have both of you guys been keeping up on the Bank Man? What the Bank Man has done?
so I vaguely know what it is. That you're talking about FTX, right?
I'm talking about FTX. So Rune,
Okay.
do you know about the Bank Man?
I do not.
So
Tell me a
there was a
tale.
guy. So there was a young man whose mother was a professor who came up with a scheme to use cryptocurrency to take down capitalism. and then her son built a business using cryptocurrency and making a cryptocurrency exchange. And he got a friend in who's really into Harry Potter. That's what all of the news articles talking about, how they stole billions of dollars, to the point that the guy who's taken over the company, who cleaned up Enron after Enron's fraud, said, "This is worse than Enron." The articles literally focus on how she loves math and Harry Potter.
So even though she has a really weird looking face, did you see that screenshot of one of her nudes?
I did not.
She has a like smoking body.
I
was
mean,
not expecting that.
All the executives in these companies did allegedly do orgies with each other.
They did. Apparently the sex tape is leaked. I have not looked it up.
Yeah. So
not saying I won't look it up at some point, but I haven't looked it up.
So the company was so bad, the government of the Bahamas seized all the company's bank accounts because they said, there is major fraud going on here, and we haven't even looked at your books yet, but we know there's major fraud. Because they gave themselves loans to build tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars mansions in the Bahamas. And they were donating cryptocurrency to various candidates for federal government office. They were connected to the Clinton Foundation for the Clinton Global Initiative. In fact, most of them got their start professionally working for Bill and Hillary Clinton. And they also just happened to have a cryptocurrency exchange that funneled money into the Ukrainian war effort. And they were all part of a weird philosophy called ethical altruism. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, what is ethical altruism? Well, it's a program where you take the most altruistic things possible, and you determine what ones are the most likely to work using math, And then you funnel all of the resources into things that can help the most people that are the most likely to see a good result. And they were funding lots of charities for this, just like they were funding politicians. And somehow,
And
the
we
exact
have
amount
Dillard in the house.
and the exact amount of money they gave all of these politicians and charities just happened to be the amount of money that got embezzled from these companies.
Hello, Lord Ayrton Potato.
Hey,
What's up,
Mr.
man?
Dillard.
Hello, Larry Karasoth. And hello, Lord RuneKnight. How come I don't have a Lord title?
Well, did you pay for one with established titles who is not a sponsor of this show?
I did pay $8 a month.
Did you buy
I mean,
one?
that makes you. Then no, $8 a month means he's just sanctioned by Twitter as the Dillard. But there's this company in Scotland that you can buy like a small square of land, and you can become a lord.
I'll just change my display name,
You,
and we'll just pretend that I paid $8.
You could do that.
No,
I mean,
no, but like the established
I mean, you
title is like
also-
$100.
look. No, it's more than that. But the thing is, you don't actually just get a piece of land that you can't do anything with. You save a tree. They plant a tree for you, so you're actually helping the planet.
What if it's an invasive species?
Well, no, it's in
They're not going
Scotland.
to plant an
They know
invasive
what kind of
species
trees
in
they're
their own territory.
Yeah, because they got such a great track record of doing things correctly.
I mean, it's Scotland. They specifically were able to tell the English government to go fuck itself, and then join the
And now
English
look at
government.
them. So, what are you guys talking about?
Well, we were talking about the bank man. And I was about to get into how the bank man's thing it leads to the possibility that Bang Brothers might get sports naming rights in Miami.
Well, I mean, John Dillard's here. We should talk about the buckler, because that's always a good idea.
No,
No,
I don't want to talk about the buckler.
you don't want to talk about the buckler.
I mean, more than anything in the world,
let's-
but I'm not
let's
trying
let-
to derail
let's let
conversation.
Larry can finish his point, then we can talk about the buck.
Oh yeah. So they funded charities in Miami that were run by the government. So as a consequence of that, the Miami Heat Stadium no longer has naming rights, and so Bang Brothers is once again trying to get the naming rights for a sports stadium. And one of these days
Why?
it's going to happen for them. Because they want some things to be happening at Bang Brothers Stadium.
Fair.
I mean, you know that's just going to turn into a primary location for people to go to get like prostitutes, right?
I mean, that's certainly something a pornography company would consider.
I'm just saying, everyone would want to go to Bang Stadium.
Exactly.
And
So, Mr. John Dillard, what do you want to bring to the show?
Idiocracy was not supposed to be a guide map, people.
I don't want to bring. I'm not trying to railroad anything.
No, I mean, like,
No,
I mean, I
you-
just like these guys, and I wanted to hang out.
If anything, John, I think you're a lifeline. I think you're going to give us direction and
since-
intelligence.
All right,
since
so
when do you
let's talk
just
about
wanna
this
hang
then.
out with us?
Since we don't have any like hardcore topic we really want to discuss, let's talk
Well,
about something
well, 'cause
that's been
Church
weighing
decided-
heavily on my mind. What did you say to me, Lord Rune?
I was saying because Church decided to sleep through his show.
Well, that's church, in a nutshell.
I already brought in roughly an hour's worth of content.
This
He
is
did.
true.
So, I normally deliver about an hour to an hour and a half's worth of content, and then Church normally has something that's really under his skin that he wants to talk about.
Yeah, if anything, I'm kind of the half-ass on this program.
Well, I know that, but it's been weighing on my mind. I'm a creator, Larry. If you didn't
Mhm.
know, I do like comic books and stuff.
Yeah.
And I do stuff for other people as well. That's my main bread and butter is I do illustrations for other people.
Right.
That's how I make my living.
And
Right,
don't
right.
you deliver eggs?
No, not anymore. I don't deliver eggs.
Oh, you don't do that anymore.
Nope.
All right.
That is no longer my job. My job now, I'm a full-time illustrator.
Hell yeah.
it's more work. I work on average about 14 hours a day now, and I work 6 days a week. But it's so much easier. I enjoy doing it, and I get paid a little bit better than driving and delivering eggs. So I have no complaints. However, I've been thinking about something. It's been on my mind for a while, and I want to start a Patreon. And the main reason I want to start a Patreon, other than getting money, which I'm sure the money won't come till much later, but the main reason I want to do this Patreon is because I want to get back to the core essence of doing a story with no rules. Because even though I'm in this group online called Comicsgate, where we, you buck the system and you do the stories that people want, but the mainstream stories aren't covering those topics anymore. But I feel even in that group, there are things that are taboo and off limits.
What do you mean?
Like, for instance, I've been, I like to joke around a little bit, and I've been like taken seriously and like excommunicated from channels because I called somebody who was in the military a welfare queen. And I have a hard stance against police.
All right.
I don't like the police. Typically, you might even hear me say, "Fuck the police" from time to time.
You're in like-minded company. We are also no longer friends of Comicsgate. That's why our show isn't doing as good as it was a year and a half ago.
No, I'm still very much Comicsgate. I'm just I feel like there are rules there as well, right?
Yeah.
Not you're not gonna get canceled or anything over there. There are people that say horrendous things that never get canceled. I haven't come anywhere close, but I would like to do a story that really has no bounds.
Okay.
Anything goes. And I'm trying to think of a story, and I don't necessarily want a writer, but I want people that are good at what they do. I want to come up with an idea, like a seed for a story.
So you're looking for our seeds?
I mean, that's what
you just said.
I mean, that's what
I have a turkey baster right here.
All right.
Hey, seed is what my mom always called it. She said that you have seeds, and sometimes they're bad, and sometimes you love them and you like fertilize them and you give them water and they grow into a plant, and that's a story. So we're on the same page.
Did you just call yourself a vegetable, Rune?
I mean, yes.
Oh, okay.
I was planted.
He's calling himself a fruit, not a vegetable.
I am indeed the fruit of somebody's loin.
I mean, did you hear the seed I threw out here earlier on the show?
No, I just started listening about 7 minutes ago.
Oh, you mean about the werewolves and the vampires?
So right. You heard that crazy speech Herschel Walker gave.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Where Herschel Walker gave a crazy speech where he talked about how werewolves can beat up vampires, and he didn't know that.
I don't even know who that is. Who's Herschel Walker?
He used to be a famous professional football player, and now he's running for Senate in Georgia. And
like
he's
Bo
got
Jackson.
some. He was more famous than Bo Jackson.
Nobody's more famous than Bo Jackson.
Well, he was more famous than Bo Jackson, and he got more records than Bo Jackson. Herschel did some numbers.
Is his record proportional to his CTEs?
Well, these records all came before his CTEs, and he was also in the USFL back when Donald Trump owned a football team there, and he later destroyed the USFL.
I'm just saying, if he had CTE, that would explain his going off book and randomly rambling about werewolves and vampires at a political rally.
And you gotta watch out for those demon babies.
He also allegedly has dissociative personality disorder.
Yeah, but who doesn't?
But so here's my pitch of an idea. So you got this Senate election, right? Where you got two boring white bread Republican senators, and this one guy who's like a kind of like rural town sheriff, who's kind of like boring until he talks about how he needs to stop the vampire and werewolf threat, and he's going to go to Washington to do that. And then he goes to shoot the vampires and werewolves, and in his community and win the election through killing them.
Okay.
And the story is told from the viewpoint of two reporters who go out to this rural area because they're from the big city, and they're like going, wait, this guy believes vampires and werewolves are real, and like he's got 10 to 15% of the voters behind him? What the heck's going on out there?
So what's the twist?
Well, the twist is vampires and werewolves are real. And it's a real problem that needs change of government policy to stop.
Which itself is, quote, according to Larry, an allegory or some shit about politicians being garbage.
Well, no, it's an allegory about, like, the Mexican border, human trafficking, meth, fentanyl, all that stuff. So that was the seed I tossed out earlier on the show.
I'm with you so far.
Yeah, and like the sheriff eventually wins the primary, and he becomes a national political figure. And these guys are like going, "Wait, are there just vampires and werewolves in this state, or are there vampires and werewolves everywhere?" And like this crazy person ends up running for president because he wants to make America great again, stop all the vampires and werewolves.
He's running on the Van Helsing ticket.
So this is what I had in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking I wanted to do this. You guys ever read the comic series called Nemesis?
By who? What publisher?
In passing.
Mark Millar is the writer.
It's something you were talking about because you were talking about the Buckler, so I actually looked it up. Icon Comics.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I've not read a whole lot of more.
It was kind of like a par for the course story, but there was one particular point where everybody agrees this guy just went too far. Because there's this bad guy, calls himself Nemesis, and he goes around and he has beef with the commissioners, the police commissioners, chief of police, whatever, in different districts, and he'll challenge them to a game of cat and mouse. I'm coming to your town, stop me if you can.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a bad guy, and he always wins. But one guy in particular, the main story that it's about, the last guy he goes against because he loses to this police commissioner. The commissioner has 2 kids. They're adult children. But basically kidnaps the kids and makes the guy confess his deepest, darkest family secrets in order to get his kids back, which he does readily. And he says, "Well, here are your kids back. I told you that I returned them to you relatively unharmed." And it comes to find out later that this guy ended up taking the seed from his son and impregnating his daughter with that same seed.
Gross.
And and that's where that's where the critics said, it kind of took a step back and said, okay, you went too far. I want a whole story where something like that is like the lightest part of it.
Here's the thing. This is the problem with mainstream comicscape, okay? We have always had a tendency, between social conservatism, not political conservatism, fuck that, we're talking about socially being restrained, and being libertine, where we want to indulge in things and enjoy stuff we're not supposed to enjoy and be creative people, right? And what always happens is that some group of creatives will come together and say, we're going to be creative and we're going to be free from these rules. And people will join, and then they'll start to create systems of creativity designed to help stabilize things, but eventually creating the same problem. You got people like, these are the rules. We have to be conservative. We got to follow the rules, right? And so people will then, again, try to diverge. They'll try to find ways to be different. And that leads to the most obvious one, which is extremity. We're going to be more extreme and more extreme and more extreme until extremity itself becomes a mainstream trait to be exploited and becomes a parody. And where you reach that point where people are like, that's too far, is when extremity becomes extremity for its own sake. When you're doing outrageous shit just to be outrageous. The issue is not that the villain took the seed from the son and put it in the daughter to fuck with the commissioner. That's an evil act from a villain. It makes sense. The extremity is, we ask yourself, well, why? What's the point? He had already won, right? And that is a Millar trait, just in Mark Millar's work, if you read enough of it, is he has a propensity for doing shitty things for no reason as a creative, just to...
Because the problem that I come across when I watch things or read things, like there was a show that came out a while back, maybe a year or two back, called Midnight Mass.
Yeah.
You guys watch that?
I'm familiar with it.
I watched most of it.
I didn't watch it, but I know it.
I thought it was very good, right? And then there are some parts of it, like in particular when you get to the part towards the end where it kind of falls on its face because you enjoy it, you like where it's going, and you want to see it go to its natural conclusion, but they pull back.
Right.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want a story that's nuts and then comes to a fucking nutso conclusion.
Well, here's my thing for you, Mr. Dillard. You're pitching this idea. You're pitching this idea in the context of your Patreon. So first, let's get with the brass tacks. You're wanting people to pay money to have this experience, to go on this ride with you, right?
Correct. Yes.
And you're wanting to basically do a modern day Harry Crumb kind of, or not Harry Crumb. Harry Crumb was the John Candy movie, but a modern day Crumb comic over Patreon.
R Crumb.
Yeah. You're wanting to do an R Crumb type experience, which Patreon won't let you do, so you'd have to do that through like locals and stuff. But the problem is there that sort of network of people to help you reach the critical mass of money you need to pull that off? I understand the creative artistic impulse there, but is there a financial base to make it worth your time?
That's the thing. I don't know yet, and I am willing at this point to go ahead and float that myself to see. Like, I make a pretty decent amount of money doing what I do, so I can then take the risk of doing something for nothing up front, and hopefully it paying off on the back end because of its merit.
The thing that I was getting at, which I think is also relevant to what Larry's bringing up, is obviously you have a certain creative urge, but what is the point of your extremity? And I have to make this comparison. Everybody loves to talk about Hellraiser as being this really gross, grody, sadomasochistic, murder porn horror movie. But more than one person seems to have forgotten that within the context of when it was written as a book, a novella called The Hellbound Heart, and indeed most of Clive Barker's body of work, it was a subversive act, and it was a creatively nuanced new act, because to that point in the late 70s and early 80s in horror fiction, it was either all Stephen King, which is this kind of middle America, small town horror angle, right? Or it was classic monster movie style, where there's a monster and there's something horrible happens, but never too horrible, never too strange, and never really addressing any like social issue. Clive Barker's work outright discussed the sort of quiet desperation of English society and the idea of the interplay between sex and being outcast or being in the closet, probably because he himself was gay at a time you couldn't be gay, and the nascent fears of AIDS. There was lots of interesting reasons to have these beings called the Cenobites that were fundamentally sexual, but were also sexless and awful in a way that had never been seen before. It served a specific purpose. that wasn't just about the awfulness. So in your story, like Larry says, you're going to have people pay money for it. What's the purpose of your narrative? What's the thesis you want to go with?
Well, that would depend on the story.
Right.
Because I have like 3 or 4 theses I want to go for.
Okay.
The other thing is, I mentioned Art Crumb because I really feel like you need to have something with that kind of grungy sort of artistic aesthetic for the direction you're trying to go in. Because you're in an independent comic book scene that's mostly trying to emulate 80s and 90s superhero comics.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do something kind of grungy and going after some of the darker shadows in that, you really need art style that would go along with that well.
Oh, I mean, Dillard has the creative chops as an artist, and that's not even butter. The thing is that I would say that the target that a lot of mainstream Comicsgate has, as you say, this replication of late '80s and '90s comics, is more of a focus on feel good. Modern mainstream comics, the big two and so on, they don't just not fail to deliver a story that makes you enjoy it, right? Like on a fundamental level, because it's flavorless paste.
Wait, we
But
can
they,
enjoy stories?
Yeah.
but they
Since
also
what?
they also in their sermonizing make stories that make you feel bad, and you come away feeling like, why did I spend $5 for this? It doesn't. It says it hates me, right?
And,
You're
and,
literally
and the
buying
gravy
the poison.
and the gravy on top of all of that is that the art is also bad for the stories they're trying to do.
Right.
They're choosing art that doesn't do their story justice.
Now the thing is that that's not a bad thing for Comicsgate. If Comicsgate wants to make feel-good stories, but in that sense, Dillard, you're right. There are people like me that are like, well, I like some dangerous stuff that makes me not feel good. I like some stuff that makes me uncomfortable. I like my horror comics and my supernatural comics and my psychological thrillers where terrible things happen to people who don't deserve it. That's all well and good. So is there a market? Well, if I'm representative of one person, there's presumably others, right?
At least 4.
Yeah, at least 4 people. There you go.
You see, I'm a believer that there's certain simple kind of things that you can do into comic book stories. Like, Dillard, have you read Chainsaw Man, or are you familiar with Chainsaw Man?
I haven't read it,
manga?
but I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
So the main character in that manga is a teenage boy, and he's got a simple goal. He wants to touch some boobs.
Mm-hmm.
And he eventually gets to touch some boobs. He's like going, "Wow, I want to do that again." What we need are stories with protagonists that have, understandable and relatable drive, like wanting to touch boobs.
Well,
No,
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a pedestrian drive either. It just has to be a believable drive.
And relatable.
The entire reason that the Punisher works, the Punisher not being a lot of people's favorite character, and that's fine, is because we can all conceive of a level of anger, a level of outrage at the unfairness of the system, where if something deeply personal like our family was taken away from us, we would go crazy, and we would want to do something crazy about it that would involve diverging from the norm, breaking the rules, but also being morally right.
Does the
want to touch boobs?
I mean,
Exactly.
he did, but they killed his boobs, and that's why he's angry.
Well, no. Marvel, they brought her back from the dead now.
Again. But that's the thing, though.
No, but that's the kind of story that actually I kind of want to portray, number one, and that's the things that I'm attracted to. Like, there's a really simple story done in a cartoon back in the 90s called Ren and Stimpy. And he was that guy Chris Felucci was kind of like he was given like an animation like the pioneer of like the psychodrama. And the story was that Ren and Stimpy had a fan club. And Stimpy was getting much more appreciation than Ren was, and Ren was jealous. And the cartoon devolves into Ren losing it to the point where he tries to commit murder on Stimpy because he's so jealous because the fans hate him. And
I feel like that's mine and Church's dynamic on this show.
yeah, and it's a very simple thing to be like, oh, you're doing something with somebody, this person's getting more attention than you are, you get jealous. It's a very natural and very relatable thing. Everybody's gone through that. If you've ever been to school and you had to do a project with somebody else, you've gone through that. And the way it was done in you know, I don't know if you remember the episode or if you've seen it. There's portions of it where there's no backgrounds. It's just eerie music. The man's face and hands are detached from his body, and he's just moving them back and forth, talking about with these hands, I'm going to strangle him in the night as he's sleeping.
not only do I remember that episode, I remember watching that on Saturday Night Nickelodeon, because that played either before or after Roundhouse and Are You Afraid of the Dark?
And it devolves into such like just nightmare. I mean, the thing is, it's all in his head, right? All of the violence and all of the stuff that's going to happen that you know is coming is all in Ren's head until the very end, and it becomes super wholesome because he reads a fan mail. He's impersonating Stimpy. He's wearing a Stimpy costume that's like a mechanical vacuum. It's like bumping, you know, and he goes to the door to get the mail, the fan mail, because he wants to get this fan mail. And it's only one letter, and it's to him. And it's a fan of Ren's, and he's reading it, and he breaks down and starts crying. And at the very end, he realizes that this fan letter was sent by Stimpy to Ren. Oh, and he loses it, and then eventually he just crawls into Stimpy's bosom and starts crying, and as Stimpy's patting his head, saying it's okay. But the thing I love about that show is that when he had an idea, he took it to the logical. It wasn't an extreme; it was very relatable, but took it to the logical conclusion. Let it play out. There was never you're never anticipating something, and then they let you down. It's always even better than what you anticipated. You know what I mean?
The problem, in my opinion,
there was no holding back on that show.
There's not a problem with you. There's a problem with the industry. The problem, in my opinion, is Batman.
Okay. Well, every time you want to talk about Batman, everywhere we go.
No, seriously.
Yeah, Dillard just wants to have a nice, romantic dinner with you, and you bring up Batman.
Hear me out, okay?
He's whipping out his Batman action figure.
The thing is that it was a corporate mandate that Batman shouldn't kill people. That's the Comics Code Authority. That has nothing to do with comics storytelling or what's good for the character.
He's whipping out his Bat-a-wang.
But it's this DC thing that they've kept that has infected comics everywhere, right? So you're supposed to have your hero, and he's going to be a heroic sociopath. Cable is going to shoot bad guys and end problems, and he proceeds to do it all over the place, and it's all awesome until he gets right up to the big bad, and he's going to do the big bad, and he's going to end the problem, and then it's like, no, because I'm a good guy, I won't kill you. And it's like, no, the good guy should kill the bad guy. The good guy should get rid of the bad guy, because the bad guy's not going to stop being bad just because you said, I understand you. They don't.
No, I get you, Joseph. I was having a conversation with this guy named TJ. And he was talking about how he brought up the conversation of, like, when is it okay, which was in his opinion never, to get your revenge, to dish out punishment to somebody. He was saying that the people, the youngsters nowadays, he's talking about the young men out there, the 14 to 19-year-old men, they're out there fighting, and they take things too far because they'll crack you in the back of the head with a brick instead of going one-on-one and having a fair fight.
Novel, bro.
And my stance on that.
Put that on screen.
Yeah, my opinion on that was that, like, like with something that I was told and I believe to my core is that there's no such thing as a fair fight.
Oh
Like,
no, I
if
agree.
you've lost all control and the situation has devolved into we are now monkeys hitting each other until somebody dies, you've gotten into a fight. In altercation, I mean, fights are not safe;
well,
they're dangerous things.
So it's actually more than that. In the gun community, there a lot of talk about like what's the best firearm to carry for defense and stuff like that. Should you use these weapons lights, this optic, whatever? And the whole premise is to make the fight unfair. You want the best advantage you can if your life is on the line. It should never be a fair fight. You should always have one.
Yeah, I feel if somebody is coming up and attacking you, your life is now on the line.
Yeah,
because you don't know. You don't know. You're in the street. You don't know if there's a banana peel 2 feet behind you. You're gonna take 2 steps back as this guy comes to hit you, and then whoop, there you go, and then you smack the back of your head on the concrete, and that's the story of Ayrton. You know what I mean?
But I'm gonna circle to your original idea though. You say you want to break the rules, and what you were talking about was like an edgy Mark Millar comic. What if you try to break the rules the other way? Because there used to be this thing called funny animal books, where they were like cartoon animals, like Donald Duck and his friends going on adventures. Now, if you really want to break the rules, an edgy McEdgy book, that's not gonna really break the rules as much as saying, "Hey, like here's a funny animal going on funny animal adventures, and he's going through some shit."
The problem is you already have that counteraction. There are people making books, but the thing is that they're not making books with authenticity, which is the real struggle, is to make something meaningful that you believe in. There are people making, quote, happy, fun books as counterpoint to edgy, grim books, but they're doing it in a really forced way where they're not actually happy people who are actually into things. They just want to be like, I did a happy book.
Well, I mean, hold up. A lot of those funny animal books weren't happy. Because, you had like Chuck Jones, Tex Avery, kind of weird shit going on in some of those books.
No, I'm just saying there are people right now who are attempting to make counteraction books that are positive, and they think that positivity involves an absolute positivity, toxic positivity.
But I'm not talking about positivity. I'm talking about funny animal books, which are not necessarily positive. Like if you look at something like the Cuphead show, you go like completely retro 1930s, 40s, 50s aesthetic as a way to be something that really breaks the artistic mold of what's going on in the scene right now. If that's where your itch is.
Well, my itch. I mean, let me be perfectly clear. My itch. I like psychodramas. I like noir, and I like horror. And I like mysteries.
We know you like horrors.
Ayrton, it's low-hanging fruit. You don't got to do it every single time.
I really do.
And when I draw, I like to render things to the extreme. That's what I enjoy doing. So, like, even though one of my biggest influences is John Chris Felucci, I would, of course, when I render something out, would go towards my other influence, like a Norman Rockwell. Even though it's exaggerated and it still has a basis in reality.
I mean, you could do like a Norman Rockwell style comic with Lovecraftian horrors baked into the background.
But I don't even know what that is because I've never read anything that's Lovecraft.
I mean, but you've seen all the knockoff Lovecraftian horrors, so you know with the visual of monsters that should defy human understanding. That are going to be
right, but I want those monsters to be internal.
No.
So a psychological thriller is
right.
Yeah.
Like I would love to do a comic book that's as brutal, like visceral, like in your face, as like the best horror movies that I've seen, but with like good, like Holmesian style twists. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No one cares, novel bro.
I mean,
No one
Lovecraft's
has
cat's
ever
name.
cared.
Lovecraft's cat's name is one of Ayrton's favorite words.
Fourth
Yeah.
favorite word. How dare you?
But here's it was there and now it's floating in the ether.
Because one of the things that I really like is let's go back to my book, The Buckler, right? That's something that a story that I really wanted to tell, and I like the way that's presented.
Hmm.
That was nobody was telling me what to do, and I just did exactly what I felt like doing for that book. And that book is very grounded in reality.
Mhm.
There's
It's very noir thriller kind of vibe about it.
So
Until
Dillard,
the ending where things go kind of nuts in the ending, but in an appropriate way for the type of comic book it is.
So what it sounds like to me, Dillard, have you seen the movie of Pink Floyd's The Wall?
No.
Okay, so
I've seen the music video. That's all I've seen.
So in the film, it jumps back and forth between reality and what's happening in the main character's head. And as he slowly kind of becomes more and more crazy, the animation gets more and more twisted and surreal and frankly really fucked up. But as it keeps jumping back and forth and he keeps descending further into madness, and the lines start blurring where you're not sure what exactly is supposed to be reality and what's in his head. And it gets really intense up until like the big build up and then the the kind of ending bit.
Okay, you see the movie Pain and Gain?
I have
The Rock?
With The Rock, yeah.
I have not, but I know of it.
Okay, so there's this scene in the movie Pain and Gain where you guys are familiar with the actor The Rock, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
Who?
Big and strong. I think in real life he's like, what, 6'5", 6'7", something like that?
He's talking about Black Adam, Ayrton.
He has one of the taller professional actors out there.
Right. And there's a scene in the movie where they want some information from this guy who is a night clerk at a motel. And you've been to a motel at night, like a Motel 6 where they have the little office where you check in.
Yeah.
Tiny little thing. There's no way to escape. And The Rock is in there and he has a baseball bat and he's all strung out on dope. And I've been in situations like that with people that are very, very big people. And when the person that's very, very big and very strong and obviously could take you apart comes in there with the baseball bat and he's not in his right mind because he's strung out on dope. Like it not only does it pull you out of your comfort zone, you're completely at the whim of this person and what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you have nowhere to run because you're in a tiny little... And the thing was, that little scene there was great, but then they pulled back because it's a mainstream movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
They pull back. I want to see that. I want to see that threat fully fleshed out.
You see, the problem for me personally about that kind of threat is I got my mother's King Kong story. So my mom worked as a psych nurse. There was a patient they called King Kong. He was built like Michael Clark Duncan, the actor. And he was called King Kong because when he got into a manic/mentally ill upcycle, he'd grab a female nurse like King Kong and run off with her. Break down doors, fling people around, all that sort of stuff. And what my mother did was she saw him smoking and said, like, listen, sir, you're not supposed to smoke with your medication. He says, well, look, she said, look, I don't have to tell your mama on you. He's like, whoa, please don't tell my mama. And that became my mother's little trick to control him, was whenever he was acting out, told this big guy would go crazy, grab people, bust down doors. They're like, hey, if you don't straighten up, we'll have your mom come down here and straighten you out.
So your mom was basically Nurse Ratched.
I mean, she just figured out the trick, because that's what you do when you're a professional psych nurse. You got to know those kind of tricks to flip people on and off.
Mm-hmm. No, and I'm not saying there's not a way to diffuse that situation, but you as a night clerk at a motel are not equipped to handle that situation.
Well, here's an interesting thing for you, Dillard. You can lift from a thing. There's a game I like. It's actually two books. There's Don't Rest Your Head and Don't Lose Your Mind, right? And the basic thesis is that if you have long-term insomnia, if you break past a certain benchmark of not being able to sleep, you start to see shit, which makes sense because of course you'd see shit. Except the stuff that you're seeing is not hallucinatory. The shit you're seeing is real, but nobody else can see it because people don't want to see it, and the things that exist beyond sleep don't want you to see it. And the problem being, of course, is that if you can see them, they can see you. And so you have these characters you play that look like completely sleep-deprived nut jobs who are normals, and all their friends are like, look, man, you got to sleep. You got to stop drinking coffee. You've got to calm down, right? But they're having the full-on Freddy Krueger story context because they're like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. There's a thing in your room behind you right now with thumbtacks for its eyes, and then where it becomes a game, where it becomes an interesting setting, is they play out that concept to its conclusion, where you either become part of the problem, you stop being a normal and you disappear because you now live in the realm of the sleepless as a powerful being, or you lose your mind and go to the happy home, or you end up dead and disappear, right? And that's the real problem you're getting at when you talk about this idea of pulling back. Is you don't have a problem with the story itself. You have a problem with the idea that it doesn't deal with any of the consequences of those stories. They have bad things happen, and then it's like, and it's almost the meme. It's like, how terrible. Anyway, it's like, no, you want to know what happens after the bad thing.
Yeah.
And there's a version of Don't Rest Your Weary Head where you're playing My Little Ponies.
Like one of my favorite episodes of my favorite show. My favorite show of all time is a show called House MD. And my favorite, they had this great episode where he goes to a rehab, and he has to go to a mental institution to go to rehab. And the best episode, in my opinion, even though that was considered most like the best episode was and should have been the end of the show, was when he went to the mental institution and changed, was the episode directly after, when he comes back and he has to get back to reality. And all the problems that he had and he took with him and supposedly, came to grips with, he was no longer, he didn't have anybody holding his hand, and there were no walls to keep him there and keep him on the straight and narrow. He was on his own now with nobody watching him, and still having to either do the right thing and continue with his recovery, or, there's nobody to tell him no, so do whatever you feel is best in your own eyes. And it was great because at the end of the episode, he goes running back to his essentially the warden, right, the counselor, and being like, I want to come back in. I can't do it out here. I need that structure because it's too much.
So like reality is more of a horror than anything in your mind sort of idea.
Well,
because the thing is, you can deal with this stuff. You can deal with the the situation, the action-packed, thrilling situations that happen in the comic books. But what happens the day after? You know what I mean? That's what I'm interested in. I want to do the story. I want to see it to its logical conclusion, and then I want to show what that leaves the person as.
Well, same token, my favorite television show is a show called Millennium with Lance Hendrickson. Lesser known show because it came out at the same time as X-Files.
Of course, your favorite show would be a lesser known show.
Well, the thing is, Fox management mishandled it because they advertised it as the next X-Files when it was not. Right? And the guy, Chris Carter, who made X-Files, was like, this is not an X-Files, don't do that. And they still screwed it up. But the thing is that Lance Hendrickson is a FBI profiler. Before that was a commonly misused trope. And he's so skilled that he's able to put himself into the mind of the serial killer, he can kind of get what their motivations are, right? And use this as a mechanism to help people find criminals, hopefully, before they do something wrong. The thing is that doesn't often work. More often than not, his ability to see what's going to happen doesn't prevent anything. It doesn't actually stop anything, although sometimes they catch a bad guy. And it doesn't heal the people whose lives are damaged in the aftermath of what goes down. It's just the ability to roughly know what's going on, and that knowledge doesn't help him. If anything, it hurts him. He becomes estranged from his wife. He has to fight with the state to keep his daughter, because everybody around him thinks that he is some kind of dangerous person, because he's so immersed in these awful things that they taint his life.
Right. Like, you're familiar with the show Blacklist?
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea of that, right? Like, going into the underbelly of the criminal world that you don't know about. And the show it was really good premise, and then it pretty much just lost its appeal midway through season 1. But it was like, because they kind of just the rinse and repeatness of it, coming up with new ways to try to keep your interest, and it was a little bit too obvious. Huh?
Well, that thing that we were just talking about, they couldn't follow through on their own premise.
Right.
They solidly
the thing is, when you show something like that has you start with like a fucked up premise, right? Like, oh, this guy does this, like he can't feel, kind of like the show House, right? You have some sort of crazy enigma. This guy can't feel anything, so it will typically be used by people. He uses his talent of not being able to feel pain to smuggle things under his skin, and stuff like that. And it's like you come up with a crazy premise, but then you have to find a way to take that premise and make a story out of it, and sometimes they fell on their face, and sometimes they did a pretty good job, and it was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, and I like the way you're going with that, and it was a pretty good episode. But I think what that show was missing was they focused too much on this character, this main character, this, again, FBI profiler, this lady, and this long, convoluted backstory that she was supposed to be involved in with, Reddington, that guy James Spader plays, instead of making an individual and having like an arc with that one individual. You know what I mean? That would have made the show a lot better than just we have the craziness of what's going on with the situation, plus this thing that we don't really know yet because we haven't written the ending, but we're gonna get there eventually, kind of bullshit, And I want to do that. I want to do something really cool and really. It's almost like I want to do like episodic things that don't match with each other. I don't want to be stuck with just doing a story about the buckler. I don't want to be stuck with just doing a story about one person.
Well,
if we could, I'm sorry.
Well, you do an anthology series. You have a grounding source like a Dark Files or a repository of stories, and then every issue is a different story in a continuous universe where there might be references to events or previous stories that happened, but the individual stories are not connected.
Right. I mean, it could be anything. I also had another idea called doing something called the Buckler Diaries, where it was just the city of Winnipeg and things that happen in different areas of that city, different little factions of people, little groups, things, even just regular people that aren't involved, just weird stories that happen, in Winnipeg, Canada. But I don't know. I wanted, but I also wanted to be something visually, I guess, like tantalizing just to look at. I'm down to do like triple X rated shit in this stuff. But I want something that's gonna be draw people in. Like, wow, what the fuck is really going on over here? This looks really cool. But I don't want it to just be hollow cheesecake.
Well, it's
you know what I mean?
It's why I read Glenn Danzig's comics.
Okay.
Glenn Danzig, lead singer of the Misfits, among other things.
Don't give me the history of Glenn Danzig. Just give me the premise.
Yeah. He's a whack job, is the answer. Glenn Danzig is ridiculous. His movie is awful. But But his comics, though they range in quality from shitty to amazing, are
He did the.
absolutely.
Is he the one that did the comic book Nail?
No, he did Verotica.
Verotica.
Yes, it's a pontmu of erotica and violence. And the thing is that above all other
sounds like
things,
my ex.
above all other things, the stories are real. It's really the stuff Glenn Danzig wants to make. He doesn't give a shit about what other people think about it. He doesn't care if it sells or not. He just wanted to make his own weirdo comics for his style of storytelling, and they are sometimes amazing. I believe he also did a series of books about the quote Panther God, which is a
Jaguar God.
superhero that he made.
I have a couple of those Jaguar God books.
Oh, Jaguar.
Yeah, they're really good. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I wanted to talk about. That's what I'm stuck on, and that's what I really want to do something like that. And I don't want to be fucking fettered by just having to do something related to the buckler. Or if there's a way to incorporate it and not ruin things, I would love to do that too.
I mean, you could do a horror comic where the buckler fights a Wendigo in the middle of nowhere in Canada.
I mean, we're doing that, but that's
the
not
Wendigo's been tired
that's
since
not the-
2000.
Isn't that the
16?
premise of Hulk number 181 where Wolverine first shows up?
Well, no,
Yeah.
like the Wendigo from the old Wolverine isn't like a real Wendigo. I'm talking about like a for real, authentic Wendigo.
but Larry, don't call me out, man. I'm doing that. I'm doing that thing. but no, the that is in the broader though, Dillard, kind of my perspective on buckler content with regards to my own ideas is not that I'm like trying to make myself part of your universe, but you've created this very interesting idea, this Winnipeg and this hero, and anytime I talk about the buckler long term, my brain goes, what's going on in the rest of the world? What's the rest of this setting doing? What other weird shit's out there? Because there's all kinds of interesting stuff going on somewhere else that the buckler isn't. Because the buckler is not alone. He's not the one superhero.
There is never
in that
anything
world.
interesting happening anywhere else in the world
no.
unless the buckler's involved.
Really? The buckler is the most interesting.
That's the whole
man
premise
in
of the buckler is that nothing else exists.
Wait a minute.
If
Wait a minute,
he
can
went
we-
away for 4 years, he comes
Wait a
back. Everything should be exactly
Wait a
as I
minute.
left it. What the fuck is
Wait
going on?
a minute, John. Does this mean that what we need is we need you to draw a meme picture of the buckler as the most interesting man in the world?
That's correct.
I don't always do superhero shit, but when I do, I'm the buckler.
But when I do, people make a book about it.
When I do, I drink Foster's.
So
Ew.
I want to put up one last question for a final thought for everybody here, because all of us to varying degrees use the bird internet, and there's all the people on there right now trying to gaslight Twitter into non-existence.
Oh, real quick, breaking: Trump is back, by the way.
Yeah. Elon brought Trump back, but what do you think about that, Dillard? All the people trying to will Twitter into dying because they don't like the fact that some rich guy has it now.
I think it was always going to be that way. I don't see it. Okay, so the people on Twitter who love using Twitter, the main reason that people love Twitter from its inception was that I have a voice that can be seen by important people, by people who have clout. And they might even respond to me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I cyberbully politicians all the time.
That's the whole thing. Like Twitter attracts people who crave that attention.
And then they learned that people who are important on Twitter are people like Mark Waid, complete and total mental head case.
Mm-hmm. So if you were to say, oh, Twitter is going through some sort of change, and it's a very public change, and it's by not only a very rich guy, but a very public rich guy, a very talkative rich guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a recipe for a nuclear bomb, and of course it is, and that's exactly how it ended up shaking out.
But the thing is, it looks
But
like
people don't have the clout to make a difference.
Yeah, it looks like 500 Asian guys are all they needed to run the back end software stuff for Twitter.
Well,
and apparently all these thousands of people who are resigning and getting fired, were unnecessary employees all along.
But he brought back Ligma and Johnson.
Exactly.
I mean, that's happened since time immemorial.
Yeah.
Any place I've ever worked at that was big enough, they had cullings.
Yeah.
Well,
and sometimes it would be every 5 years. Sometimes it would be annually. Even places like I used to work at Amazon, right? They would hire a whole bunch of every year. They would fire a bunch of people, and then they would bring in a bunch of people to do seasonal, right? Or whenever there would be a big release. Like I remember when I was working there in pack line, and I used to, in my section was multi-large, multi items in large boxes. And they would bring in people seasonally when like Call of Duty was being released. There was going to be a big influx of work. They would bring in a bunch of temps. Amazon has their own. They don't call a temp agency. Amazon has their own temp agency. They'll bring in a bunch of people, find out who the good ones are, fire everybody else come the end of the season, along with a couple of established employees, that were not pulling their weight. They're always doing this turnover stuff where all these companies, especially companies like Amazon or Twitter or, big, McDonald's, whatever, they're high turnover companies because they're constantly trying to milk every last ounce of productivity out of somebody until they say, you know what, I'm sick of it and I leave. And Twitter had a reputation of not being that. There were people I remember before this even happened, there were people going around posting videos about their workday on Twitter where they would go around and say, oh, look at what I do. I work at this company. And they would be, they wouldn't say which one it was, but it was obvious it was Twitter. And, and oh, look at this. Lunch. Yeah, a free lunch. I have work sessions that a good 25 minutes of solid work, and then we got to brainstorm. Give me an opportunity to go ride my bicycle around the upper level of the campus to go clear my head and think about a new way to innovate. It's like, you idiot! You really think that shit was gonna last?
That's the thing. Is all of this is theater. All of this is theater.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was Musk not going to quote fix anything, and anyone who thought he was is lying to themselves. But the blue check mark doesn't matter. The firings and hirings don't matter. And I'm sorry, people, this was never a democracy. Twitter is not a democracy. It's not an organ of your government. Your voting about whether or not Trump should be on Twitter never mattered because the people who own it now don't answer to you. Why the fuck did you ever think they did?
Actually, Twitter's kind of an organ of the government, but that gets into some really weird stuff the government's been doing lately.
That's in the weeds. We're talking about corporate Twitter.
So I'm saying corporate Twitter worked for the U.S. government.
Right, but whether or not Elon Musk, a private citizen who owns a private company, says, okay, we're going to undo a lot of these bannings because I don't believe that they're fair, and that includes letting Trump back on Twitter, has nothing to do whether or not the Rex Populi of Twitter, the mass of angry nerds, say they like it or not. Their liking it is irrelevant to the decision-making process that happens in the boardroom at the business. You're not shareholders. You don't have a stake. You don't have a say. He doesn't answer to you. He never did.
I mean, he briefly answered to me when he bought my stock shares, and I'm very thankful he bought my stock shares, and I made my profit off of selling them to him. My investment in Elon was justified in the end. But here's the thing for me: it's like all these people who got fired are playing games with their friends in the media to try to gaslight the company into non-existence. And fundamentally, Twitter's went downhill when all of the big, famous, important people, as Ayrton started mentioning them, stopped being
vital participants in Twitter, and they start getting replaced by porn, by crypto scams, and shit like that.
Well, and Rune's missing a point because Elon's been talking about bots for a long time.
Yeah.
And I suspect part of that poll that he did was to kind of see what kind of bot activity would show up in a poll like that.
He's been doing that with his polls.
Yeah.
He's using that as bait to get the bots out.
Because that poll ended up getting 15 million votes?
More.
It was more than that?
So let me get this straight.
Last I saw, it was like
let me get this straight. You're saying... So what you're saying is Elon Musk is sending an army of polls into the mouth of killbots because every killbot has a kill number?
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I'm sorry for the polls. East Europe, that sucks, but I mean
But so what's also interesting about the polls he takes is they're actually very indicative of wider society's viewpoints on things. Because he has such a following and so much interaction, you can actually get very, very accurate data once you get rid of the bots about society as a whole. It's really, really fascinating when you dig deeper into it.
And that's also part of, like you said, the theater. All the advertisers pulling on Twitter was theater because they were trying to get Elon to lower their rate for their ads. And Elon says, listen, once I get rid of the bots, baby, you're going to actually be able to get good data. And then I'll actually demand a higher rate out of you. So is that really what you want me to do?
And again, I can't really get, in good conscience, I can't even like put out a good what I think because that's completely out of my wheelhouse when it comes to like, you know, I don't have an MBA. I have no idea how that stuff works. I was talking to some guy talking about, remember that guy, they were talking about it on some YouTube short where it was that mattress king guy. He would say, you know, if this person wins the Super Bowl, then I'm going to give away $25,000 worth of mattresses to their hometown, right? But then what he would go and do is go and bet on the opposite team so that whether or not he won or their team won or lost, he would get his money either way. You know, he would either recoup the money. So if the team lost, you know, everybody would celebrate and they would get a discount, whatever. But he would recoup the money from his winnings in gambling.
Well, hold up. You don't know how that works with like car dealerships?
No,
like, you know, car dealerships.
Like I said, I'm not an MBA. I have no idea. There's a whole bunch of little things that people do in business that work and don't work, and I'm fucking clueless. I'm just some schmuck that draws comic books, you know.
What the car companies do is they get an insurance policy that says that if the sales gimmick doesn't create this many extra sales, they get insurance on the loss, and the insurance on the loss pays for the cost of the actual prizes. So they don't actually lose money.
And I was like, you know what? That's so dirty, but at the same time, that's so brilliant. And you know, I have no idea. I mean, there's so many things that people can do to manipulate stuff. I have no idea what's gonna work. Like I can't sit there and say, like, I saw somebody put up a tweet that says you know, Elon Musk, right? Slams penis in car door. And then it says Elon Musk fan, what a brilliant move, sir. You know? I have no idea. I have no idea why people do things. How the fuck would I know?
I mean, here's another facet of this thing. Back in the day, in the time of dinosaurs, everybody had a MySpace.
Oh fuck!
And then everybody moved off of MySpace onto Facebook.
We had free speech and a profile song, and then people went to Facebook. Fuck those people. Facebook is gay. MySpace was the best social media ever.
But Ayrton, why'd they go to Facebook?
I have no idea. I still don't use Facebook.
Because Facebook was selected at the time.
Not just that. You guys are missing the big one. Because their parents started doing MySpace or going to their MySpace. So you have teens and young people on MySpace doing MySpace shit, and then their parents are going to their MySpace and leave it on their MySpace tracker, hey, are you coming home for dinner tonight? And it's like, God damn it, Mom, leave me alone. So they went to Facebook. And then parents and businesses and advertisers started getting Facebooks to try and
then
follow
they Twitter
trends.
and Instagram.
And then they would Twitter. Right. And they're going to move off of those platforms now because the same thing is happening.
So that the Chinese government can monitor them and do psyops.
Exactly. But they're going to keep moving and they're going to keep making new things. And there's going to be a new service focus because they want to have places that are private in the public.
Well, see, and that's what I find interesting about Twitter. That's why it's like the only one that I use, is that it's so widespread. But I think 4 people out of my 500 followers are people I know in real life. Like, nobody I know in real life actually uses Twitter, but there's millions of people. It's fucking bizarre. I don't understand how that's part of why I don't use Facebook or any of that stuff, because, leave me alone. We went to high school together. Why are you trying to friend me? Fuck off. I don't care. We haven't talked in 15 years. Go away. But that doesn't happen on Twitter, and that's why I like it. Plus the memes and cyberbullying politicians. But it's really, really bizarre because Facebook is essentially the boomer social media at this point. MySpace doesn't exist. Instagram is for whores. And for somehow...
Hey, in fairness, I'm getting a lot of porn stars subscribing to me on Twitter to try to get me to get into their OnlyFans and stuff.
Well, that's fair. But for some reason, Twitter isn't like, there's no specific demographic like that it targets, except like shit posters, I guess.
Well, we're not their target demographic, but we are a key component of their business model.
Yeah.
Because
I'm just saying they're going to find a new place to shit post. They're going to find a different bucket to spit in once they decide Twitter is not the place, because, it was great before insert group here ruined it.
Dude, if my mom went on Twitter and found my page, holy shit, she would have a heart attack.
I mean, Ayrton, we are an example of this right now in practice, because this stream is being sent to Rumble rather than YouTube.
No, we're on YouTube right now. I can't connect to Rumble unless Church is here.
Yeah, that's why I was actually able to find your stream, because it was on YouTube.
I mean,
sure,
the
but
stream's always
the ultimate thing is that we're still in. Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm saying that also because Church is fed up with YouTube, he wants to move to a new platform. That's part of the exodus. That's people leaving.
We're also
the
getting more people on Rumble, believe it or not, Dillard. More people are watching us on Rumble than on YouTube.
Yeah.
I believe it, because nobody's watching on YouTube right now.
I mean,
I'm looking at the stream on my phone. It says nobody's watching.
I mean,
the Novel Bro quit us? Novel Bro, we miss you.
Well, no,
he probably fell asleep. He's in Scotland.
He probably fell asleep. Yeah. So,
because it says here on my phone, live chat, one person, and that's me.
I mean, the real question is, where's Novel Bro's lordship? When is he going to be Lord Bro?
Maybe I should change my name to Lord Commander Dillard Draws.
Generalissimo.
No, you should go with El Alcalde Dillard Draws. And be a Zorro villain.
The fucking Mexicans I used to work with at the... Because my name is John. For those of you guys who don't know, my name is John Dillard.
It's not Juan Dillard.
And they would call me Johnny. And then somebody got the brilliant idea to call me... I don't know if you say Johnny with a Mexican accent. It's Yanni. Yanni. And then they would call me Yanni Chingas.
I mean, that sounds like a fighting word in Spanish.
Yeah, because basically what it means is instead of saying Yanni Chingas, they meant it as Ya, like Y-A, and then N-E, Yanni, which means he doesn't. And Chingas means fuck.
Oh.
Oh, so they were calling you a virgin.
Yeah, they were calling me a virgin. I was like, you motherfucker. I hate people on a fundamental level.
Can we get a photograph of you doing that expression? I love that. You're looking off into space, kind of like a political image, just looking up. And you just put "I hate people" under it.
I think we should put Yanni Chingas underneath it.
we make it
Yeah,
red.
put a
blue,
little little hyphen and then a nice scroll letter work. Yanni Chinga.
Yeah.
We make it in red, white, and blue, and we make it like it's a political poster because we should vote Dillard in the 2024 election.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll so write Dillard in for the next election.
Oh shit! I want this. I want a John $1 billion idea. You make a book. The buckler goes to Washington.
That could
I
be
mean,
good.
you can
has
do
to
it. You can do
has
it.
to get into a fight with Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi.
No.
They shed their
Like,
human skin and lizard people come out and he has to fight.
no. Like, he goes to the Washington where there like Chaz was, and like a SoundCloud rapper takes over a city like as a warlord.
All right, I was thinking Washington D.C. and
you
French
play it up.
revolutioning politicians.
You play it up like that terrible Die Hard film where the buckler was just on vacation. He's not
There's
even
no
working
such
this
thing as a
season,
terrible
even
Die
working.
Hard film. What are you talking about?
Oh, if you've never seen Live Free or Die Hard, because it's awful.
I
Which
mean,
one is that? Is that the one where
that's-
he goes to Russia or is that the one where he's in Washington, D.C.?
That's one
that's
before. That's one
No, no.
before Russia.
No.
Oh, that one was fantastic.
No. That's the one where or am I thinking of A Good Day to Die Hard? The one where he goes to Russia.
Yeah, that one was not as good.
That
Yeah.
one was not as good.
But
Still pretty
But-
good, though.
But I love the idea. I love the idea that the buckler, a Canadian a Canadian guy with powers, because he's not a hero and he's not a villain, goes to Washington for some reason and gets wrapped up in our bullshit, and it's all the superhero garbage you'd expect, and he A, doesn't have time for it, B, doesn't want to be in it, and C, is like, I'm just on vacation. Just leave me the fuck alone the whole time. But
I'm
yeah,
actually,
he's the buckler.
I'm actually
He's
liking
also
this premise.
nobody's
I'm
bitch.
not gonna lie.
So
Now, can you think
Well,
of a way
he's
to make
also
it
the buckler,
noir
so
and also very dirty with lots of nudity?
well, yeah, it's
Well,
Washington
well,
D.C.
well,
There's
the-
prostitutes everywhere.
Well, no. Here's the obvious, right? The buckler goes to Washington for some very mundane purpose, right? Like his daughter is on a school trip or some shit, right?
Yeah, it's
So
just part of the
it's the
fucking
buckler and his
National
boys.
Spelling Bee.
Right. But the villains there, the criminal underworld, think the buckler is making a big move to expand. Because why would the buckler come to DC? Clearly, he's up to something, right? So they start using all their schemes to like send assassins and trouble guys and whatnot, right? And of course, the buckler's
Yeah.
got to deal with him because he's nobody's bitch. And then because he's fighting villains, the local heroes assume, oh shit, the buckler's making a move on DC. We have to protect the president. So now everybody's after the buckler. And the buckler is just like, leave me the fuck alone. I just want to watch my daughter go to the spelling bee.
I just want to take a Polaroid selfie in front of the Washington Monument. Fuck off.
Right.
That way we can get the buckler. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, got a camera around his neck, hanging from a lanyard.
A straw hat.
I already
I
had that.
mean-
Did you see it? Did you see it in the book? The
Mhm.
what was it? The Barton? No, not the Barton brothers. The Diaz brothers did a book called CG Vacation. I can show it because the book's already out, but the buckler has a. Let me see if I can find the picture real quick.
Yeah, if you go ahead and share it, I'll add it to the stream.
Yeah, it might take me about a minute or two to find it though, so give
Alright.
me a couple of seconds here.
But yeah, I want more stories of like heroes trying to go on a vacation and then getting tied into something. It reminds me of a Wolverine storyline that I love, where he finds a couple of like chicks at a beach, and they're going on a cruise. So he gets on the cruise ship, and then it turns out one of them's pregnant, and there's this weird demon monster trying to kill her to kill the baby because the baby is going to be a powerful psychic, and the fetus inside of her is so powerful that it can project itself to Wolverine to say like, hey, help me. But when it projects itself, it's in the shape of a fetus. It's a great fucking story. And he has to go and kill this weird demon monster. No, it's amazing.
It's the stupidest fucking shit.
No, it's so good.
I'm going to pull non-existent rank and say, Aaron, it's time to say your line.
Well, we need to see this picture. We need to see this picture of the.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, it's going to take me a while to find it, I think.
All right. Good night, everybody.